Hi, today I'm going to go through the process of solving a quadratic by completing the square. And so the first part is remembering what a perfect square trinomial is. And a perfect square trinomial, I'm going to write it up here, would be something like x squared plus, let's say I had 6x, and then you take half of this, which is 3, and square it, which is 9. So this would be an example of a perfect square trinomial. And what's really nice about a perfect square trinomial is when you factor it, you get the square root, this sign right here, squared. Okay? And so when a perfect square trinomial is factored, this is what it looks like. And so we're going to use this idea today to do something called completing the square. Okay. So our first step when completing the square, as you can see we have something in standard form, is to get rid of c. This is our c right here, so to get rid of it, we're going to subtract 16 from both sides. And what we're trying to do is fill in the perfect number right here so that when we factor it, it gets to this, which is nice and pretty. So I take half of 14, which is 7 or negative 7, square it is 49. This is always going to be a plus right here. Okay, so I figured out that this perfect number is a 49, and then I have to add it to both sides. I can't just add it to here. So I'm going to add a 49 to this side too. Okay, so 49 minus 16 is going to get me to 33. I just combine those. And then I'm going to factor this side. Well, remember, we created this perfect square trinomial, so we know it's going to factor really nice and easy. It's going to factor to x minus 7 squared. All right? And now I can just solve for x. But what would I do? I would square root both sides. All right, and that is not, I can't simplify a radical 33. And then I'm going to add 7 to both sides to get x by itself. So your answer is going to be x is positive and negative square root of 33 plus 7. Okay, and if you wanted to put approximately, if you wanted to get a decimal version of it, you would just have this 33, square root it, right? That's the positive version, and add 7 to it. So let's say 12.7, and then we would have to take 33 square root it, make it negative because we have the negative here, and then add 7. And then we have 1.3. Okay, so it's approximately 12.7 and 1.3, and if they want the exact answer, you would leave it like that. Okay? So now I want you guys to practice with these problems, and I'm going to go through it a little quicker. I'm going to get rid of my c. Oops, I should have an x here, sorry. Take half of 10 is 5, squared is 25. I'm going to add 25 to both sides. Factor. Square root both sides. And if I want my answer in simplest radical form, can I simplify 34? I don't think so. Okay, so then I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides, so I can leave it like that. Or if I want a decimal answer, I'm going to put 34 square rooted, this is the positive version, minus 5, approximately 0.8, and then I have to do the same thing and make a negative version. I have to remember to make it negative after I square root it. Okay? All right, let's try this one. I thought some of these would have nice pretty answers, but I guess not. Get rid of my c. Okay, take half of 4 and square it. Add it to both sides. Factor this. square root it. Add 4 to both sides, plus minus. Okay, and then if I want a decimal answer, 22 square rooted, that's the positive version, plus 4, 8.7. And let's make that negative now, 0.7. All right, and I wanted to give you an example of a word problem. We're going to find the value of x, and we've done quite a few problems like this before where we have some kind of picture and then it has a frame around it. And with this particular problem, they told us a little bit more information than the past. They said that this is x, and this right here is 2x. And so when I have this whole thing, the border going around is 2. And so what am I going to do? I'm going to go ahead and I'm trying to figure out what x is. Now I'm thinking that I must have forgotten to look up and see what is the area of that. So we have, okay, they told us in here that the area of the whole thing, sorry, I haven't written that down, that the area is 5,000. This was supposed to be some kind of maze or something. Has a border or a walkway. Okay, so let's go ahead and set it up. We're gonna say x plus 4, because that's this side, times this side, whoops, 2x plus 4 equals 5, 6, 1, 6. Okay, so you might be thinking, well, Miss Knight, this looks a little different than what we've been doing. So let's go ahead, and the first thing we have to do is FOIL this out, okay? See if that gets us anywhere. All right, and the first thing that I notice here is that I have this 16 on the end. So and you can do some things in a little different of an order if you prefer. I'm gonna get rid of my C first because I know I'm trying to complete the square here. All right, and what I noticed is 2 goes into 2. I have a GCF here of 2. So I'm gonna divide everything by 2 just so my numbers are a little bit smaller, easier to work with. Okay, and so now I have to figure out what am I going to add to both sides. Take half of 6, 3, square it, 9, add 9 to both sides. Okay, so now I can factor this. Oh, I did that wrong, sorry. 2809, sorry about that. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and square root both sides. And let's see what the square root of that is, just in case it is pretty. Sometimes we look out. And we do, 53, okay. So here we have x plus 3. The square root of this is 53. All right, so now I have 2 problems to make. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. So I have x equals the positive version, 53 minus 3, because I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. And I also have x equals the negative version, negative 53 minus 3. So here, I'm going to say that x equals 50, and x equals negative 56. Now, if that's the value of x, right, if that's how long it is from here to here, it doesn't make sense that it is a negative number. So the value of x is 50. Okay, I think, oh, one more thing I wanted to show you is how to, if you're given standard form, how to use completing the square to turn it into vertex form. Okay, so we have an equation in standard form. You know I love vertex form. Here's an equation in standard form, and we're just going to start, turn it into vertex form. All right, so I'm going to get rid of my c. Now you can rearrange your equation if you want. In other words, you can say, all right, I think I'm going to do this. It doesn't really matter. I'm just going to put my y on the other side. Okay, I'm going to have my y over here. I'm going to subtract 11 from both sides. I take half of that, half of -8 is -4, and square it is 16. So I'm going to add 16 to both sides. Factor. Subtract 5. And here is my vertex form. Maybe I would have preferred the y on that side, actually. All right, and that is my vertex form. I know I have the parent function. It's moved down 5 and right 4. Okay, you guys try this one. I'm going to keep the y on this side. I think that would have been a little bit easier. Okay, figure out what my c would be. I just subtracted 3 from both sides is what I did as my first step. Take half of that, 1, square it, 1, or -1, squared it, 1. Factor. And then add my 2 back to both sides. All right, and that's how we can go from standard form to vertex form. All right, see you guys tomorrow.